Shabbat Shalom. Once again, welcome to another blessed Sabbath day and another class with Israel Evolves. Today's topic is called Job, the Israelite from the tribe of Levi. Job, the Israelite from the tribe of Levi. And this class was done because a message that I got from a brother in reference sending me some biblical.com saying that Job was an Edomite. Well, we're going to prove through the scriptures that Job, not only was he an Israelite, but what tribe Job came from. Thus said the Lord. Doesn't say exactly the tribe in the book of Job, but as you read the scriptures, you get the understanding. That's why precept must be upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. So with that, let's start with the book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4. The book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comforts of the scriptures might have hope. So our hope is that today we're going to get the understanding about the prophet Job, who he was, and what he represents. Let's go to the book of 1 Thessalonians. The book of 1 Thessalonians, and I want chapter 5. The book of 1 Thessalonians, chapter 5, and verse 21. Prove all things. Hold fast to that which is good. So today we're going to prove all things. We're going to prove Job was an Israelite. We're going to prove the tribe that Job came from. And we're going to learn a lot about ourselves from Job and learn how we are to conduct ourselves. Not only that, how the Most High dealt with Job. All praises. So with that, let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 119. The book of Psalms, chapter 119 and verse 4. Thou hast commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. So hold what you got right there, and let's jump over to verse 100. I understand more than the ancients, because I keep thy precepts. It's very important that we be able to do this and be able to understand us keeping the precepts and being able to do thus said the Lord. I understand more than the ancients, because I keep thy precepts. That means all the prophets before, when King David wrote this, meaning that all the things that he learned from the prophets before are the things that we're learning now. And what we know now here on the earth today is more than what they knew then. Because see, we got the complete works. They didn't. I understand more than the ancients because I keep thy precepts. I have refrained my feet from every evil way that I might keep thy word. Let's jump down to 104. Through thy precepts I get understanding. Therefore I hate every false way. So through the precepts of the Most High, we get every understanding. And because we get every understanding, it's easy for us to understand what it is that the scripture is saying. So let's go to the book of Job. And let's start in. Yeah, just make sure you take notes, because these are things that you'll be able to refer back to, at a later time, and then you'll see for yourself as you read over them. Wow, that makes all the sense in the world, and that's what thus said the Lord. That's what it is. So hold what you got 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. So the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 1. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. So you read that and you say, okay, well, land of Uz, that's in Edom. So how does that prove that he's an Israelite? Because he is sure of evil, that proves that he's an Israelite? No. We're going to keep reading. So let's go over to chapter 2. Job chapter 2. And let's start at verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job? So the Lord asking Satan, have you considered my servant Job? Same thing we read in chapter 1. Okay. Have thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil, and still he hold fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to be destroy him without cause. So once again, we're in the book of Job, chapter 2, and right now we have verse 4. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man have will he give for his life. But put forth thy hand now, and touch his bones, and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thy hand, but save his life. So the Lord tells Satan that Job now is in your hands, but you're going to save his life. You can't kill him. That's what he's telling him. You can't kill Job, but I'm gonna give you all power to be able to do whatever it is that you're going to do. Okay. So verse 7, so went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord, and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his feet, from the sole of his foot onto his crown. Meaning from his feet, from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head, Job had sores, boils, like these like big lumps all over his body that Satan did to him. Okay? So that's important that you know that, because later on in the scriptures, when people try to say that in Job 30 or 30, when we get there, saying that was part of this, but he made it very clear. You'll see the difference now when I get down to Job 30 and 30. So now let's go to verse 9 in the same chapter 2. So Job chapter 2 and verse 9. Then said his wife unto him, doest thou still retain thy integrity? Curse God and die. So now Job's wife, looking at all of this stuff that's happening to Job, she tells Job to curse the Most High and just die. What does this tell you? That the wife did not have at all the faith that Job had, the belief that he has in the Most High. Why is this so important? Because we got to stand on the Lord's word, not everybody else's and what everybody else say. That's why it's so important to read the scriptures. Read the scriptures for yourself. Get an understanding of what thus said the Lord, so that you hear all these different doctrines and you understand that, wait a minute, that ain't what the Bible's saying. And you got to stretch that thing to make it seem like that. So let's continue to hear what happened with Job. Verse 10. But he said unto her, thou speakest, as one of the foolish women speaketh. What shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips? So now the scripture is saying that Job, after all the things that his wife said, the things that is happening to him, he did not one time talk against the Most High in reference to what was happening to him. He kept those thoughts. It wasn't even those thoughts for him to keep to himself. All the things that Job brought forth, he trusted in the Lord, because guess what? He knew that he didn't do anything to deserve what he was getting. So everything that was going on in his mind and everything that was happening, yeah, he was still trying to understand it, but he knew that he didn't do anything to sin to bring himself to all of these things that was starting to happen to him. So let's jump down. Let's go to verse 12. Verse 11. Sorry, verse 11. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that come upon him, they came every one from his own place, and Eliphaz the Timite, and Bildad the Shihite, and Zophar the Naamathite, for they have made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. So let me start right there. Because you see these people here where it says, now Job 3 friends. Remember, you're going to have to remember these 3 friends, okay? Because they're going to be very important and later on in the lesson. So the 3 friends is giving you the places that they come from. So all of these places that are being mentioned here are in the land of Edom. Okay, all these places are in the land of Edom. Doesn't mean that they are those people. The same as the difference is we here in America. We could say, Obadiah, the Judite from New Jersey, or in New Jersey. I ain't from New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? Or from Philly. I ain't from Philly. But this is the land that I live in. Or even better yet, they say, you know, Obadiah, the American. I'm not American. I'm an Israelite from the tribe of Judah, and I live in New Jersey. Whatever the case may be, this is the same thing that we're referring to right here, so that people don't get their minds twisted and stuck on something. So you get an understanding in today's term what these things mean. Verse 12. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept. And they rent every one his mantle and sprinkled dust upon their heads towards heavens. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was great. So Job's 3 friends saw that he was really going through it. And they didn't say a word to Job. They didn't say nothing. They just sat there with him, and they prayed and sprinkled dust and prayed to the Lord for 7 days and 7 nights. That's what they did, watching their friend go through all of this that he's going through. So with that, let's go to the book of Job, chapter 1 again, because I want to read something to you, and I want you to keep these things in mind. The book of Job, chapter 1 and verse 5. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them. So what was happening was above in verse 4, where it says, and his sons went and feasted in their house, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. So what this is talking about, Job's children, namely his sons, were celebrating their birthday. That's what his day is. Okay? So the scripture says, and his sons went and feasted in their house, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. So when his 7 sons were doing this, the 3 sent for their 3 sisters, and they also were celebrating the son's birthday. Okay, that's what this is all about. So now when you read verse 5, you understand why Job did what he did. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, that he cleansed them, he prayed and cleansed them, and rose up early in the morning and offered a burnt offering according to the number of them all. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. So this is something that Job continuously had to continue to keep doing. He had to keep sending up sacrifices towards the Most High because of what his sons were doing. With that happening, what the sons were doing, and he had to continually keep sending up, sin offerings in reference to that. That's going to be very important for you to understand what's going to happen next as we continue to read in the text. And also, you learn from this why we don't celebrate birthdays. Okay? How we know that this is just a quick precept to get an understanding when it says everyone his day and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink. How do we know that that's talking about their birthday? Well, let's just flip one chapter over. And let's go to chapter 2. Chapter 3, sorry. Let's go to chapter 3 and read verse 1. The book of Job, chapter 3 and verse 1. After this opened Job his mouth and cursed his day. And Job spake and said, let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said, there is a man-child conceived. So his day is talking about the day that he was born, which we call today our birthday. Okay? So with that, let's go to Job chapter 5. Let's go to the book of Job chapter 5 and verse 17. Behold, happy is the man who God correcteth. Therefore despise not thou that chasten of the Almighty. So said, well, why do you go there, brother? Well, I'm going to show you why. When the scripture says, behold, happy is the man whom God correcteth, therefore despise not thou chasten of the Almighty. The Most High don't chasten no other nation or people. He only does that with the children of Israel. Nobody else. Nobody else. So hold what you got and let's prove that. Let's go to Psalms, the book of Psalms, chapter 147. The book of Psalms, chapter 147, and I want verse 19. Here we go. The book of Psalms, chapter 147 and verse 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob. Jacob being the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. His statutes and his judgments unto Israel. So his statutes meaning the standards, the laws, statutes, and commandments that the Most High gave us. And his judgments, those things that will happen to us for doing wrong, of not doing what his laws and his statutes were set forth. And the commandments were set forth. So whatever judgments there be for whatever law that we broke, those are the things that will happen to us. So once again, he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He have not dealt so with any nation. And for as his judgments, remember that, and for as his judgments, they have not known them. Meaning the judgments that plague people, those judgments don't come from the Most High for breaking God's laws. Those things come because the Most High just wiping them off the earth. But when we do something, those judgments come to us because we broke God's laws. The laws were never given to nobody else. They was only given to the Israelites. So when Job said what he said in Job chapter 5, verse 17, behold, happy is the man who God correcteth, therefore despise not thy chastening of the Almighty. When he said, behold, be happy that God correct, if the Most High is correcting you in your sin, then obviously he got mercy for you. He loves you. When he don't correct you, now you got a problem. When you out there just doing whatever and there's no correction whatsoever, or whatever's going on, the Most High ain't dealing with you. He ain't dealing with you no more. So that's the whole point. We don't want to get to that where the Most High ain't dealing with us no more. We want to always be dealt with by the Most High. We want to always try to rehearse the righteous acts so that we don't be a part of that. Those people that is not being chastised by the Lord. So with that, let's go over to the book of Joel. Let's go over to the book of Joel and now chapter 2. Start at verse 26. The book of Joel, chapter 2 and verse 26. And ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, that have dealt wondrously with you. And my people shall never be ashamed. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed. So, if Job was anything other than an Israelite, why would the Most High be dealing with him at all? So these are quick cuts that just shut down that whole doctrine about Job being an Edomite just because he lived in the land of Edom. These are quick cuts to shut that down. But some people, you gotta, and it's more our people than it is anybody else. And then you got the people that try to get the scriptures to apply to everybody. And they don't. They only apply to us. For us to get on the right track and do what it is thus said the Lord. So the Lord said that he is nobody else's God but the Israelites. That's what it is. So let's go back to the book of Job. And let's get chapter. Chapter 22. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 22. The book of Job, chapter 22, and let's get verse 21. The book of Job, chapter 22, and verse 21. Acquaint now thyself with him, and be at peace. Thereby good shall come unto thee. Verse 22. Receive, I pray thee, the law from his mouth, and lay up his word in thy heart. So we just established that the Most High ain't dealing with nobody else. We just also established that the Most High only gave the law, statutes, and commandments to the Israelites, to the seed of Jacob, to the children of Israel. So why in verse 22, when Job was saying, receive, I pray thee, the law from his mouth, and lay up his word in thy heart. Lay up his word in thy heart. Meaning the Most High word, which is these laws, statutes, and commandments, you lay that thing up in your heart, which is your mind. And you do thus said the Lord. So once again, we've proven that Job was an Israelite. Okay? So with that, let's go to Psalms chapter 78. Because we're going to leave this. It's not going to be no way around it for anybody to come with anything else different. That's the point. That's why I'm trying to convey to you and teach you, thus said the Lord through the scriptures, that nobody is going to be able to come against the scripts. Nobody's going to be able to come against this Bible, not nobody's doctrine, all this other information that they're coming up with, all these texts outside of the Bible. The Bible it can prove itself. So let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 78, and let's get verse 5. For he established a testimony in Jacob, and appointed a law in Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that should make them known to their children. So, if verse 5 in Psalms chapter 78 says that for he established a testimony in Jacob, the forefather of the 12 tribes, and appointed a law in Israel, he appointed a law with the children of Israel, which he commanded our fathers, that they should make them known to their children. That's real simple. So this law was only appointed to the Israelites. So what we read in Job chapter 22, verse 22, when he said that he rehearsed the law, and that's out of the mouth of the Lord. The law that he's speaking of is this law that was established with Israel, the people, and which is Israel is a people, never a place. Okay. So now let's go to the book of Job, chapter 32. It's not going to be a long class, but it's just going to be quick to the point to get the understanding to shut down all these strongholds that our people are faced with. The book of Job, chapter 32 and verse 1. So these three men, so let me stop right there. Remember earlier I said that, remember those three brothers that came to sit with Job when he was going through all his drama. Now we're going to read about them and some more about them. And these things are important for us to get an understanding. So let's go to the book of Job, chapter 32 and verse 1. So these three men ceased to answer Job, because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then was kindled the wrath of Elihu, the son of Bachal, the Bizite, of the kindred of Ram. Against Job was his wrath kindled, because he justified himself rather than God. So what's happening, let me give you a little understanding. What's happening here is now in their minds they're thinking that Job sinned. That's what this is all about. They thinking Job sinned because why would the Most High do all of this to you for no reason? That's in their mindset. That's the way they were brought up, that the only reason why certain things like this are happening to you is because you in sin. Well, we're going to find out. Verse 3. Also against his three friends was his wrath kindled, because they had found no answer, and yet had condemned Job. Now Elihu had waited till Job had spoken, because they were elder than he. And Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men. Then his wrath was kindled. And Elihu, the son of Bachal, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young, and ye are very old. Wherefore I was afraid and thirst, not to show you my opinion. So what this brother is saying is, because you men are older than me, I didn't want to say what my opinion is, because you're going to think that because you're older, you're much wiser than I, and you may feel that you know more, and you're not going to listen to no little young pipsqueak like me. So let's hear what happens. I said, days should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there's a spirit in a man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giving them understanding. So what he's telling you now, that in spite of all the wisdom that comes with all the time that you've been on the earth, and although I may be younger than you, much younger than you, Most High give. And that spirit that the Most High give is inspiration of the Almighty, of giving understanding. Verse 9. Great men not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. So now he said great men is not always wise. Well, we see that all day, because we see right here us growing up on this earth and looking at the people that's older than us, the people that were before us, especially us kids that in the 70s kids, and looking at the people that was before us that went through the Civil Rights Act and stuff like that, and looking at their mindset now and the things of what they saying on the earth today, talking about we all just should get along, or this whole earth gonna perish if we don't learn to live together or whatever. All of this is these things that people saying, and they don't read the scripts. They don't believe in the Most High, because most of them probably did read the scripts. They just don't believe in the Lord. It ain't no getting along. It ain't none of that for us to do. That ain't gonna change a doggone thing, getting along. What's going to change is us keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, and be patient and hurry up and wait for Christ to return. That's it. So verse 9, when he said, great men are not always wise, meaning you could be old as Methuselah. Because you that old don't mean that you wise. Neither do the aged understand judgment. Neither do the aged men understand judgment. So now you gentlemen want to pass judgment on Job and what's happening to him. But yet, Job had nothing to say that he did anything to deserve this. So this may be something else. This was the brothers bringing out. Verse 10. Therefore I said, hearken unto me. I also will show my opinion. Behold, I waited for your words. I gave ear to your reason. Willeth ye search out what to say? Verse 12. Yea, I attended unto you. And behold, there was none of you that convinced Job, or that answered his words, lest ye should say, we have found out wisdom. God trusteth him down, not man. So Job trusted in the Most High, just like this brother trusted in the Most High, not trusting the man, because man gonna say that the reason why this is happening to you is because you in sin. We don't know that. We don't know if you in sin and this is why this is happening to you. It could be the Most High doing something to bring you closer to him. It could be judgment that you're receiving. But those things, they're above our pay grade when it comes to the Most High. That's above us. We can't say why the Lord do what he do. We just know that he could do it because he's the Lord. And we know that he could do it to us because we his children. And if whatever it may be, he's going to reveal the reason behind it. Why he do it. So verse 12 again. Yea, I attended unto you, and behold, there was none of you that convinced Job, or that answered his words. Lest ye should say, we have found out wisdom. God trusteth in him down, not man. Verse 14. Now he have not directed his words against me, neither will I answer him with your speeches. They were amazed, and they answered no more, and they left off speaking. When I had waited, for they spake not, but stood still and answered no more. Verse 17. And I said, I will answer also my part. I also will show my opinion, for I am full of matter. The spirit within me constraineth me. Behold, my belly is as wine which have no vent. So when the brother's saying that his belly is like wine with no vent, if you take wine that you make, mash these grapes up, or whatever fermentation that you're using to make wine, and you put it inside of a vessel, whether it be a bottle or plastic or whatever the case may be, the gases build up inside of that space because there's nowhere for the air to go. That's why they use corks, because corks allow air to come through. If that wasn't there, then what would happen is the bottle, all that pressure build up inside of that bottle, and the bottle explode, just blow up. Well, that's what he means by what he says, that behold, my belly is as wine which have no vent. Okay, so verse 19 again. Behold, my belly is as wine which have no vent. It is ready to burst like new bottles. Verse 20. I will speak that I may be refreshed. I will open my lips and answer. Let me not, I pray you, accept any man's person. Neither let me give flattering titles unto man. For I know not to give flattering titles. In so doing, my Maker will soon take me away. So the brother's saying that he's not going to give no title to no man. He did such a thing or whatever, the Most High take him away. Take him off the earth. So he's showing them the reason why they didn't answer, because this thing is deeper than what they think it is. What's happening with Job is deeper than what's actually taking place. Had nothing to do with Job's sin. So what he's doing is giving them an avenue of looking elsewhere. Not looking at Job as if he's committed sin, but looking at other options of why these things may be happening to him. Therefore, they'll be able to learn themselves. Wait a minute. Maybe this is a lesson for all of us and how we deal with the Most High. How we think that this is just a clear-cut thing. It's no confusion. That's why in the beginning when I said Romans 15:4, these things are written aforetime, are written for our learning, is so that we understand that the things that we are learning from the scriptures don't always have to do with what we think it is. It may be a lesson in it some kind of way that's entirely different than what we've been taught or what we think we know. So with that, let's go to Job chapter 30. Why, where I suspect this doctrine may come from. Why brothers think that Job is the Edomite. Well, I mean, I don't understand that. But we got to address it, and we're going to fix it today. So the book of Job chapter 30, and let's get verse 29. I am a brother to dragons and a companion to owls. So when Job said that I'm a brother to dragons, if you look over in the same chapter in verse 30, chapter 30, verse 1 down to verse 8, this right here is talking about Edom. The Edomites that were in the clefts of the caves. You get time, you could go read those things yourself. So when he says that he's a brother to dragons, he's referring to Genesis chapter 25 and 25, Jacob and Esau. Okay? How we know that that's what he's talking about when he says he's a brother to dragons. Okay, let's go to Revelation chapter 12. Hold what you got in Job chapter 30. Go to Revelation chapter 12. Go to Revelation chapter 12 and let's read verse 4. The book of Revelations chapter 12 and verse 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. So when it says his tail drew the third part, right, of the stars of heaven, in the beginning, in verse 1, when it's talking about the stars of heaven, it's talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. When it says the third part, you divide 12 by 4, gives you 3. So 3 parts, which is the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which were left in Judea during the time of the Roman captivity. So when it says, and this is a prophecy that was brought forth of what was happening. So verse 4 says, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and they did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman. So the dragon that we speaking of, the dragon which we mentioned in Job chapter 30, verse 29, when he said he's a brother to dragons. Okay. How we know that this is a man? Well, we get to really find out right now. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So when it says right here that the dragon that stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So this dragon that we're speaking of, this dragon is a man. Okay? So this child that we're speaking of, this child is the Messiah. Now how are we going to prove that? Well, let's go to the book of Matthew. Hold what you got. Let's go to the book of Matthew. And get chapter 2. The book of Matthew, chapter 2. And let's get verse 12. The book of Matthew, chapter 2 and verse 12. And being warned of God in the dream that they should not return to Herod. Herod is this dragon. Listen. They departed into their own country another way. Verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. So when we was reading what we was reading in Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, verse 4, when it says, the book of Revelations, chapter 12, and verse 4, the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth, and the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Well, that's what we're talking about in the book of Matthew, chapter 2. So the dragon that is referring to is a man, and Herod is a man that's an Edomite. Okay? So when Job said that he's a brother to dragons, yes, because Jacob and Esau were born from the same mother. And we know that the dragon that he's referring to is his brothers, forefathers of Edom, the kindred of Edom, the offspring of Edom. So let's go back to Job chapter 30, and let's shut down this whole Edomite crap. So in verse 29, he says, I am a brother to dragons and a companion to owls. Then verse 30, he says, my skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. So Job telling you his skin is black upon him. Okay, there's no disease out there that turn your skin black. Okay, that turn your skin from one nationality or one race to another race. Ain't nothing out there to do that. So those people say that, oh, that was because of what he was being afflicted. No, because earlier when we read, when Job got the boils from Satan, he said he afflicted him with the boils from his soles of his feet to the top of his head. And he said what those things were, boils and sores. Those things don't turn you black. So your skin is black. Your skin is black because your skin is black. That's the best way for us to describe who we are. The color of our skin. And when it says that my bones are burned with heat, because you got a fever. So that's why they try to connect the boils, or trying to say that these are sores or whatever the case may be, and why his skin is black. Because he got a fever. I got a fever. My temperature be 104 degrees or whatever the case may be. My skin don't change to a different color. You touch my forehead or my arms or whatever the case may be, they're going to be warm. But I ain't going to change to a whole nother color. It all boils down to this, people. We the people of the book. And the people out there, they hate that thing. Even some of our own people hate it. Most of them hate it because they don't want to deal with discipline. They don't want to deal with authority. They don't want to deal with being told what to do. And they just want to be wicked in the world. And then some of them, they love the man that oppressed them so much till they just can't bring it about themselves to say that it's not a universal. They make up their own doctrines. The same as what I taught in The Truth About Ruth. And you read the class. Oh, the Most High is not going to put a book of a heathen and that she got to be an Israelite. Well, I proved that. She's not. And proved the reason had nothing to do about Ruth. The book of Ruth ain't got nothing to do about Ruth. It got to do with the statutes that the Most High gave the Israelites when it comes to dealing with the land that he bestowed upon us. That's what it's about. So now let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what and who Job is. Let's go to the book of Exodus. We're going to go deep into the Old Testament. Let's go to the book of Exodus and chapter 28. Let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 28. Let's start at verse 1. The book of Exodus, chapter 28 and verse 1. And take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel. It ain't say about nobody else from no other nation. It said from the children of Israel, Aaron, who we know to be Moses' brother. If we need to prove that, we could do that too. And take thou unto thee Aaron thy brother, and his sons with him, from among the children of Israel, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office, even Aaron and Nadab, and Abihu, and Eleazar, and Ithamar, and Aaron's sons. And thou shalt make holy garments for Aaron thy brother, for glory and for beauty. And thou shalt speak unto all that are wise-hearted, whom I have filled with the spirit of wisdom, that they may make Aaron's garments to consecrate him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. So Aaron was given the duty of ministering to the Most High. His sons, the duty to ministering to the Most High in the priest's office. Okay? The priest's office. So let's go to the book of Exodus chapter 4. Hold what you got in 28 because we're coming back that way. So let's go to Exodus chapter 4 and verse 14. The book of Exodus chapter 4 and verse 14. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, Is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? So now we know that Aaron came from the tribe of Levi. Okay? That's what I wanted to get out of that verse. To show you that Aaron was a Levite. His son's Levite. Moses, Levite. Okay? And you're going to see where this is going. So let's go back let's go back to Exodus chapter. Let's go to 29. Exodus 29. Let's go to Exodus 29 and let's go to verse 29. So the book of Exodus, chapter 29 and verse 29. And the holy garments of Aaron shall be his sons after him, to be anointed therein, and to be consecrated in them. Excuse me. And that son that is priest in his stead shall put them on 7 days. And when he cometh into the tabernacle of the congregation to minister in the holy place, and thou shalt take the ram of the consecration and seethe his flesh in the holy place. Seethe means boil. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram, and the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And they shall eat those things wherewith the atonement was made, to consecrate and to sanctify them. But a stranger shall not eat thereof. A stranger, meaning anyone that's not a Levite, cannot do this, because they are holy. And if aught of the flesh of the consecration or of the bread remain unto the morning, then thou shalt burn the remaining with fire. It shall not be eaten, because it is holy. And thus shalt thou do unto Aaron and to his sons, according to all things which I commanded thee. 7 days shalt thou consecrate them. And thou shalt offer every day a bullock for a sin offering for atonement. So remember these things. And thou shalt anoint it to sanctify it. 7 days thou shalt make an atonement for the altar and sanctify it. And it shall be an altar most holy. Whatsoever toucheth the altar shall be holy. So these things were given unto the Levitical priests, Aaron and his sons, the sin offering from the Lord, the priesthood from the Lord, which was given to the Levites. Okay, these things were given to the Levites. They wasn't given to no other tribe up to this point. So with that, let's go to 1 Chronicles. To show you how serious the Lord is with this thing. Why it's so important for us to see this, so now that you'll understand that this ain't something that anybody could do. So let's go to 1 Chronicles and chapter 15. So 1 Chronicles chapter 15, we're going to start at verse 1. And David made him houses in the city of David, and prepared a place for the ark of God. The ark of God is the ark of the covenant. And pitched it for a tent. Pitched for it a tent. Verse 2. Then David said, none ought to carry the ark but the Levites. For them have the Lord chosen to carry the ark of God, and to minister unto him forever. Jump down to verse 4. And David assembled the children of Aaron and the Levites. Let's jump down to verse 11 now. And David called for Zadok and Abithathar, the priests, and for the Levites, for Uriel, Asaiah, and Joel, and Shemaiah, and Eliah, and Amimadad, and said unto them, Ye are the chief of the fathers of the Levites. Sanctify yourself both ye and your brethren, that ye may bring up the ark of the Lord God of Israel unto the place that I have prepared for it. Verse 13 is very important. For because ye did not at the first, the Lord our God made a breach upon us, for that we sought him not after the due order. So when verse 13 said that sought not after the due order, that means that it's an order in how the Ark of the Covenant and who is authorized to carry it, who's authorized to move it, who's authorized to touch it. This breach that we're speaking of, let's get the understanding of what that breach is. Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel. So we get a little history about what happened. Precept must be upon precept. We ain't gonna leave no stones unturned. Y'all gonna know exactly what the scriptures say, and gonna know, and they're gonna be able to put it together and be like, man, this thing is make all the sense in the world. That's just what it is. So let's get 2 Samuel chapter 6, and let's start at verse 6. The book of 2 Samuel, chapter 6 and verse 6. And when they came to Nachan, the threshing floor of Uzziah put forth his hand to the ark of God, and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzziah, and God smote him therefore his error, and there he died by the ark of God. So let's read verse 8. And David was displeased because the Lord had made a breach upon Uzziah. And he called the name of the place Perazah to this day. Okay, so the Lord breached the Ark of the Covenant. He killed Nachan. But when you read above that, you will see that what was happening. Go to verse 3 in chapter 6. And it says, and they set the ark of God upon a new cart, because they changed the cart that the Ark of the Covenant was in. So verse 3, and they set the ark of God upon a new cart and brought it onto the house of Abinadab, and that was in Gibeah. And Uzziah and Ahiah, the son of Abinadab, drave the new cart. So they drove the cart. They was the one that was driving the cart. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the ark of God. And Ahiah went before the ark. And David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord on all manners of instrument made of fir wood, and even on harps and on psalteries and timbrels, like cymbals, and on the cornets and on the cymbals. And when they came to Nachan's threshing door, Uzziah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzziah, and God smote him therefore his error, and there he died by the ark of God. So now we go back to Chronicles. We go back to Chronicles chapter 15. When we were down in verse 13, when David said that it was breach. Verse 13, First Chronicles chapter 15, verse 13. For because ye did it, not at the first, the Lord our God made a breach upon us, for that we sought him not after the due order. So the reason why I came to this is because I had to show you that there's an order that the Most High set forth for us. There's nothing that can change that order but God himself. And all the way up to this point, that order has been the same. All the way up to the point of when we read about the prophet Job, that order has been the same. It has never changed. It changed, but we're going to find out when that change came. So now let's go to the book of Malachi. Let's see where the drama started. Let's go to the book of Malachi. Let's go to the book of Malachi. I want chapter 2. Book of Malachi, chapter 2, and let's start at verse 1. The book of Malachi. Now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. If ye will not hear, and if ye will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, said the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because ye do not lay it to heart. So now we're reading about the Most High had cursed the priesthood, right? The priesthood we know were the Levites. So we're in the book of Malachi. This is after the testimonies of the book of Job. Okay? So now, let's go back to the book of Job. Because what we were discussing was the Levitical priesthood, what the Levites did. Only the Levites could do anything when it's pertaining to sacrifices. Only the Levites could touch the Ark of the Covenant. Only the Levites were able to hold the office of the priesthood to the Most High. So let's go back to the book of Job. And then we're going to come back to Malachi. Let's go to the book of Job. And let's go to Job chapter 42. Let's go to the book of Job chapter 42. And let's start at verse 1. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that thou cannot do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee. Who is he that hideth counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I uttered, that I understand not things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. So what Job is speaking about is he know he didn't sin, but yet the Lord was allowing him to be afflicted. Okay? The people that was around Job, his friends, they spoke against it. They spoke against those things because they all figured out that Job sinned and didn't tell them. Didn't tell them what it was that he did that caused them to sin. So that's what's in their mindset. But yet, that ain't what it is. So now Job is revealing that thing. So when he says that I understood not the two things too wonderful for me, meaning that's something above your pay grade, which I knew not. Verse 4. Hear, I beseech thee, and I will speak. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now my eyes seeth thee. Wherefore I abhorred myself and repent in the dust of the dust and ashes. Because Job said, I hate who I was, and now that I know who I am even more, I repent in the dust and the ashes. So you talking about a man that was already perfect, hate the fact that his perfectness still wasn't enough for the Most High. And it wasn't that it wasn't enough for the Most High. It's the fact that you got that mindset that, oh, I got it going on. I don't do nothing wrong when it comes to the Lord. You know, and he still tested, still put Job through the trials. So we ain't never above that. That's the whole point. That we got to rehearse the righteous acts all the time, no matter what. Whatever calamity come our way, just know that we got to dust our feet off, understand whatever it may be. It could be the lesson, could be whatever it is. You take whatever lesson comes out of that thing and you use it for your advantage to get the kingdom, because that's the whole reason why we doing this. To get the hell up out of this hell. Verse 7. And it was so, that after the Lord had spoken these words unto Job, that the Lord said unto Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is kindled against thee, and against thy two friends. So you remember the three friends that we was talking about earlier in the book of Job? We was talking about his three friends that sat with him the 7 days. For ye have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job have. Yeah, that's what the brother that when we was reading Job chapter 32 was trying to explain to them. That just because these things have happened and you got more knowledge and or you got more wisdom than me, or you're older than me, doesn't mean that I don't understand what's happening. This may be deeper than what you thinking it is. That's what he's telling them. So let's get it. Verse 8. Therefore, take unto you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you. For him will I accept. So when the Lord said from Job that he will accept these 7 burnt offerings and these 7 bullocks and these 7 rams, only from his servant Job that he's going to accept that from, hold what you got right there. See, the priesthood never changed up to this point. It's been the same. So when we was reading in the book of Malachi, when I was going over to the beginning, that's after Job. That's way after Job. So the order of the Levites was still in effect. So let's read. Verse 8 again. Therefore take unto you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you. For him will I accept, lest I deal with you after your folly. So the Lord said from Job will he accept, lest he just deal with you for your folly, what your sin is, for speaking against me. So the Lord is being merciful for these 3 men and not kill they behind for what they did. In that ye have not spoken of me the thing which is right, like my servant Job. So verse 9, so Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Nemathite, went and did according as the Lord commanded them. And the Lord also accepted Job. So meaning that he accepted the sacrifice. The Lord only accepts sacrifice from Levites. The priesthood is only set forth through the Levites. So that means that Job was a Levite. And we know that the priesthood didn't change until we got to the book of Malachi. So let's go back to the book of Malachi. Let's go back to the book of Malachi, and let's start at chapter 2, and let's start at verse 1 again. And now, O ye priests, this commandment is for you. If ye will not hear, and if ye will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, said the Lord of hosts, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because ye do not lay it to heart. Behold, I will corrupt your seed. The seed is the Aaron and his children, which were the Levites. None of that was done prior to this. And spread dung upon your faces. Dung is doo-doo. Upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. Verse 4, and ye shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant might be with Levi, said the Lord of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for the fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. See, all these things right here, the Lord is expressing and saying that you couldn't catch a Levite with no law in him. You couldn't catch a Levite doing evil or anything like that. They feared the Lord. And iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. Verse 7, for the priest's lips shall keep knowledge, and they shall seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. So he's the only one that can message for the Lord. He's the only one that can hold the priesthood for the Lord. Let's get it. But ye, verse 8, but ye, so but, just erase everything that we just read from verse 7 all the way up to verse 1, all gone, wiped out. But ye are departed out of the way. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. Ye have corrupted the covenant of the Levi, said the Lord of hosts. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people. I mean, like you like everybody else now. No longer are you the esteemed Levite, the Levitical priest. That ain't with you no more. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways, but have been partial in the law. Have we not all one Father? Have not one God created us? That's all I wanted right there. So with that, there came a change. There came a change. That's why we had the Messiah. So when you go to the book of Hebrews, let's get it real quick, and we almost done. To confirm what we just read in Malachi, that there came a change. But prior to this happening, what we read in Malachi, prior to that, there was no change. The Levitical priesthood was still in effect. And the things that the Most High said that only they could do was still in effect. So let's go to the book of Hebrews chapter 7, and let's start at verse 11. The book of Hebrews chapter 7 and verse 11. If therefore perfection were by the Levitical priesthood, For under it, the people received the law. What further need was there that another priest should rise after the order of Melchizedek? That's another class. And not be called after the order of Aaron. For the priesthood being changed, there is made a necessity, a change also of the law. So here we go. Now we're ready to get a change. For he of whom these things are spoken pertaineth to another tribe, of which no man gave attendance at the altar. So we know that only the Levites gave attendance at the altar. No other tribe. So now there was a change. Let's get it. Verse 14. For it is evident that our Lord is Christ, sprang out of Judah, the tribe of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning the priesthood. Moses never spoke on Judah being in the priesthood. So in order for Job, the prophet, to do what it was that he did in verse 42 with the 7 bulls and the 7 rams, and sent up that offering to the Lord and prayed for those brothers, so the Most High don't put them to death, he only accepted that from his priests. And Job was his priest. When you think about it and you look at the map, matter of fact, and no, I don't want to think about it. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. So now we know the priesthood changed after Job. So let's go to the book of Deuteronomy and get some understanding about the Levites. Deuteronomy chapter 14. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 14. And we're about to end this. So let's go to verse 22. So let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 15, and verse, let me just get straight to the point. Let's go to verse 27. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14, and verse 27. And the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he have no part nor inheritance with thee. So what the Lord is saying, that he had no part or no inheritance with thee, meaning that the Levites didn't have land. The Levites didn't have land because they was all over, and the other 11 tribes living in their lands, and their land space that they had was within or around the tribes that they were having to do all these sacrifices for. Because you got to think about it. It's millions of us. And a million of us with drama. So it got to be a whole lot of Levites that have to set forth these things to atone for our sins. And these Levites, let's see what the Lord did. In verse 27, and the Levite that is within thy gates, thou shalt not forsake him, for he have no part or no inheritance with thee. And at the end of the 3 years thou shalt bring forth all the tithe of thy increase the same year, and shalt lay it up within thy gates. And the Levites, because he have no part or no inheritance with thee, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow which are within thy gates shall come and shall eat and be satisfied, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thy hand which thou doest. So what was happening is, when it says right here in verse 29, and the Levites, because he have no part or no inheritance with thee, the Lord never gave them land. So that means that all the tribesmen that had land, that had animals, that had food or whatever the case may be, had to bring a percentage of that up to Jerusalem, so that that thing could be separated and disseminated throughout Israel, for the Levitical priests and the fatherless children and the widows. So if this is going on for many years, they got to have a place to put these things. So you look at the lands of where the Levitical priests were living. They had to have their own little space that didn't belong to them from none of the land that the Most High gave. So they lived outside of the lands that the Most High gave, like Edom. So this tells you why things were done the way that they were done. So with that, class, I hope you got edification and understanding that Job was definitely an Israelite, and Job is from the tribe of Levi. Because the Most High didn't deal with no one else. He don't change. And when he did change, he showed you why he had to do it. He did it because the Levites took advantage of the priesthood and was doing all kind of evil stuff. You read about that in the Maccabees. All the evil crap that they was out there doing. So we did what we had to do today. We prove all things. We were able to show precept upon precept. Thus said the Lord, who Job is and what he did. And also got the lesson of understanding how we are to conduct ourselves. The best way to put it for all of you is no matter what happens in our lives, no matter what we are afflicted with or how we are afflicted, always look at it as a lesson. As a lesson for us to learn to always continuously, no matter what, rehearse the righteous acts. And with that, class, I say shalom. Most High Christ bless. Enjoy your Sabbath. Yeah, you can't eat in here.
I keep forgetting.
You see that sign right there?
Yeah. I don't know why I keep forgetting. Dumb.
Hold on. Let me